Welcome to Stone Hands, to the Hands of Stone. This day we will dwell into the topic of planting trees and eating greens. Trees and greens, of course. Yes. So people who are able to live in peace with the trees, with the forest, with the natural woodland, they are blessed people. Their innate ability to sense life around them and within them is greater, for example, compared to a person who lives in an apartment block, etc. People who work with the trees. I had this place that I rented when I went to university, and the owner of the place, she was a great old lady. She was from the First Republic of Estonia, so she was around here in the 30s, in 1930s, and she had lived in that house all of her life and had made it into apartment blocks. And she told me that all the people that she knew who had lived for a long time, who had this longevity in their veins, they were people who were working with the trees, with the wood. So they were carpenters or craftsmen, people, or even park guardians, the shepherds of the trees. So there is something in the trees that is radiating out of them. In the books of ringing cedars of Russia, it is said that the cedars that begin to ring, they have to be around 500 to 600 years old. And then those cedars in the Siberia, they begin to glow and hum in a special way. And if possible, it's time for them to go into the other world. So if possible, people can cut those trees down and harness those pieces of the trees, and even a small branch or small ring from a tree can give enormous vitality to a bearer of a ring or a jewelry or a bark if it's next to their skin each day for a few months. The diseases begin to disappear and all kinds of ailments begin to regenerate. My grandmother and my grandmother were born in Siberia. When they were in lack, they were eating all the greens that they found, all the nettles and also the cones of the cedar tree or the cedar nuts. And my grandmother, she lived over 90, and when she died, she had her own teeth intact in her mouth. And she lived alone in a farm until she was 85 years old. Then our family decided that it's better to move her away from there. And my grandmother also, she's now reaching her 80s and she's in a good health because she grew up in Siberia eating those natural plants and being immersed in the natural medicine. So for a long life, people had to be immersed in the nature, in the trees, or had to be a subject to the powers of great forest in their youth. For example, taiga that is in Siberia, my both grandmothers, they were subjected to the power of the taiga, of the cedar trees, and other trees also that you can find in the taiga. And I grew up in a forest. A lot of my childhood was spent in our Finnish summer house, in our summer cottage. Also in the winter, yes, of course. And in our summer house, it's surrounded by the trees and it It's next to a beautiful clean water lake. It has found out that the microbiome, the microorganisms in the Finnish lakes, they eat microplastic. So that lake is perfect place for me to go and purify my body. And of course we go to sauna, and in the winter we go into the ice. We make an ice hole into the lake and we jump into the lake, and then we go to the sauna. That's just a thing that we love. And in the summer we make sauna and we jump into the lake, and it's just fun and enjoyable leisure activity. But it's also an activity to connect with the divine, because divine lays in the nature. And breathing in the forces of nature, being connected to the nature, we become greater persons, and we find longevity and connectivity. That's why Nokia is from Finland, because there's a lot of forests and lakes. There's a good connectivity to the innate abilities or innate mystery of the nature, of course. and the greenery. We eat a lot of greens. We even harvest the needles of pine trees. The birch, for example, not the birch, but this is pine, Scotch pine, and spruce, yes, to give more strength to the body and more longevity, of course. And eating greens gives chlorophyll, and chlorophyll's molecule is almost identical to the blood molecule. In the blood there is ferrum, the iron. In the chlorophyll there is magnesium, but the structure and everything else is identical. So when we eat greens, we bring in the direct sunlight into our body and into our eyes, and we become more conscious and more greater beings, in tune with all that is. And when we are in tune, we become more clear in our minds. We become more clear with our attitude towards the environment, and we become more clear towards our attitude to other people. We become more compassionate, and also it's a way of biohacking, because the ability of the brain to transfer information from one cell to another improves, so we can solve complicated mathematical errors or problems much faster than an average person. Being in the nature, being in the woods, we become more greater in our bodies with the abilities of our bodies, and in our minds with the abilities of our minds, and in our hearts as our heart becomes more clear and softer. So I wish you all the best, and see you soon. See you next time.